they know and love for many years. So you guys are setting the precedent as far as I'm concerned. And the bar really high also.
Hey, I don't know if there's any truth to this, Paul, but I heard that you're a big Michael Bolton fan. You and Mario used to drive.
Paul Perez. See you. Bye, Paul Perez. It was nice knowing you. Yeah.
I threw Mario's Michael Bolton cassette out the window.
Good job. Yes. Perez, tell them you threw my Michael Bolton cassette out. Hey, just did, Mario. Mario, let me ask you a question. What are you? Is he really a Michael Bolton fan?
Yeah.
And he said that out loud?
Mario?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, my goodness.
All of a sudden, David Holiday is not intimidated by this guy anymore from the last 2 months.
A road trip from Connecticut to Buffalo. Nothing but Michael Bolton. So right before we hit Buffalo, I tossed the cassette out the window so I wouldn't have to hear it on the way back.
Paul Perez, do you want to become a permanent co-host on this show now after hearing that? I would love if that were the case. I'm just saying. Perez went to TV. Mario, we got to talk about that. I know we got to talk about your script Saturday, but we got to talk about Michael Bolton. And Paul Perez, we'll be talking to you also very soon. Anything you want to I want to give you the floor. Anything you want to let the viewers know? Anything at all? The floor is yours.
Well, I just want to thank you guys for having me on, Mr. Roma, Mr. Klein. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. I want everybody to have a happy New Year, and I'll see you soon, Roma.
All right.
Paul Perez. What a classy guy, man. Well, I just really enjoyed having him on, man. What a classy guy.
Yeah, I told you.
Paul, I think we'd be remiss if we didn't bring this up now. I know we have a game coming up. David Holliday's going to join us and so will Howard. We'd be remiss if we didn't bring this up because we maintain the truth over here. I just want to say something right here from the heart, guys and gals. Everyone's talking about, people were messaging me as well about the show today, and they were talking about what's going on right now. And we're on live, and I just want to say this because it's not a razzle-dazzle type of pitch for right guard. I'll do that later during the games. Guys, buy yourself some right guard, and I do want to thank Todd and James, legit, for giving me the thumbs up to talk about this right now. Conjecture is something I don't like to bring up, Paul, and I think people know that. It's just an opinion or conclusion that's pretty much formulated on the basis of incomplete information. That's what conjecture is. And a lot of times there's conjecture. But sometimes things add up and sometimes things don't add up. And what we're seeing right now does boggle people's minds. But I want people to understand that it goes both ways. If we're going to talk about hypocrisy, there's something I can talk about. Hypocrisy would be if this thing that we're seeing right now on Capitol Hill is actually legitimate. If what we're seeing in the nation's capital is legitimate, and it's pure rage that wasn't planned and isn't processed, and it's something that's organic, it's no different than what happened in 2016 when Hillary Clinton didn't say a word and didn't tell people on the left to step down when they were marching and protesting. So if that's something that's actually organic, we can understand people's frustration. We may not agree with it, but we can understand because it goes both ways. If we're talking about conjecture, maybe the name George Soros should be brought up. There's a lot of different organizations that this guy, actually, if you do your due diligence, I can name about maybe 85 of them. I can. We could talk about Air American Radio, which is now defunct and doesn't exist. We could talk about the Advancement Project. But let's stick on the topic of what's going on today. There's a group called All of Us or None. And I want you guys to understand who George Soros is. This is an organization that seeks to change voting laws, guys and gals, which vary, by the way, from state to state. It allows ex-inmates, Paul, parolees, and even current inmates to cast their ballots in political elections. Now, whether you agree with that or not, what I will say is this. I've seen this dance before. I've seen how it plays out. I've seen exactly what the agenda is. And the agenda makers would like us to believe that maybe this is organic. And maybe some of the people out there actually do believe that they're going to make a difference. Maybe some of them feel like this is a coup. This isn't a coup, guys and gals. If you're hearing that word from the media, that this is a coup, no, it's not. That's an illegal seizure of power from a government, which is not happening under our watch in 2021. This isn't a coup. What this is either spontaneous internal hostility that stems from frustration over these last 4 years by being called racists or being lumped into a group without people getting to know who people are individually if they were pro-Trump, or what we're seeing is something quite the opposite. We're seeing something that might be actually funded by a group that, when it comes to propaganda, are probably number one. When it comes to forming propaganda and making sure that they drive their narrative forward, the propaganda machine that's been funded by George Soros is actually quite scary, and it's not going away, Paul Roma.
No, you're right. It's not going away. We're all undesirables, and there's so many tag names that laid on anybody that wasn't with them. That's the best way to put it. Because again, I'm independent. I'm going to vote whether you're Republican, Democrat, for who I think is the best fit, for the presidency. That being said, here's something I like to lay on everybody here. Family, friends, fans. So, you have, and right now you have, in Congress, in the House, you have Democrats and you have Republicans. My question is this: it doesn't matter what you are. There are people that, like the Bernie Sanders, AOC, and +3, Kamala Harris, and the rest of the Adam Schiffs of the world. They're gonna try and destroy America. That's what they're there for. Okay, that's my opinion, and I believe that is to be the truth. All right, but there has to be other Democrats that don't want to destroy America. But you can't be that afraid to cast your vote, to cast your opinion, because you're so worried about what they're going to do to you. Because if that's the way it comes down, then maybe you're in the wrong business. And the same thing goes for the Republicans. I heard, Pence didn't want to pull the trigger, and to me, he's spineless. Trump stood by him, in all these 4 years and thought he was the greatest thing since sliced bread. But that, I guess,
Trump's not part of the club, Paul Roma.
I know he's not part of the club, but that gathering that they had today in Washington, there's video where the police officers moved the gates and let them through. So they didn't charge the gates. They didn't throw frozen water bottles and injure the police officers. And I had people, texting, talking about, oh, why did they do this and didn't do that? And, really? Because, for the most part, it was peaceful. And then you had a few of the idiots that, obviously attacked where I got that flag from, the Capitol building. But again, were they Trump supporters or were they Antifa? Were they part of George Soros's, program? Right? I mean, for the most part. And then you get a curfew like this passed for 6 o'clock. Did you have a bunch of arrests? Do you have a bunch of rioting? No.
If it looks like a duck and it quacks like a duck, it's usually a duck. But I will say this. I would be hypocritical if I were to piggyback off something that's strictly conjecture at this point. So I don't want to actually throw my opinion in the hat and say that this is something I think I would lend my stamp of approval on. Not at all. What I would say, though, is it's quite interesting and quite funny that some of these patterns that we've seen from a lot of the organizations that George Soros has funded seem very typical. Some of those tactics are very identical to what we're seeing right now. And I would implore people to stop getting their information. Paul, it drives me nuts because you were talking about Fox News earlier. I think it's more surprising to me that people are aware of the fact that we're misinformed from the mass media on a national scale. But yet they still choose to support everything that the mass media feeds us instead of saying, I'm going to do my own due diligence. I think it comes down to the fact that you brought up a word earlier as it pertains to teachers. I'm going to go one further. There's a word I want to bring up as it pertains to Americans, and you're not going to like this, but it's fine. Lazy. When it comes to anything that's shallow, when it comes to anything that's superficial, oh yeah, we're hard workers. But when it comes to doing our due diligence, we need to do that and stop feeding ourselves all this horse crap that we're receiving from the media. Because the brain is a muscle, and we need to train that as well. But people aren't going to do it. Maybe the people on this show will. And you might ask, where do you go? Where do you get your information if it's not from the mass media? Guys and gals, you know exactly where to get it from. I'm not going to give you the answers, but I guarantee you right off the bat, if these policies that Paul is talking about, that he supports more so than the parties interest you, do your due diligence before election season. If you really want to know what a candidate stands for, you're not going to receive it probably until about maybe 3 years before a campaign is even running. And even then, it's tough to distinguish what they stand for. But I would come up with a checklist. What are the 5 policies that are most important to you? I know for Dell, it's abortion. Abortion is high on Del Wilkes' list, and that's fine. Paul, respect for the military and the flag. That's high on your list. Why can't we come up with a list, a top 5 list, and just find out which party supports some of those policies? It's that simple. Instead of letting the media tell us what policies which party supports, which usually is nothing but a farce, Paul Roma.
Right, but listen, you know what? It's not that simple anymore, because if, in fact, this election was stolen, rigged, then they'll always get whoever they want to put in the offices that they want. You know, when they supposedly stormed, you know, the House, they showed the inside, and they had, you know, Secret Service drawing their guns. You had some senators in there or congressmen, you know, crouching down and hiding. That's what they are. They're spineless jellyfish is what they are. Stand up, man. You know, your attackers are coming. Stand up. Confront them. See what they have to say. They're American people. And you're supposed to be representing them. Talk to them. But no, you won't. And that's the problem with this world right now. You know, listen, of all the Trump supporters, and I don't know who they were out there, but for the thousands that were there, I was damn proud that they were there. Damn proud. You know, to show the masses that, you know, we're not going to sit idly by. Now, don't get me wrong. You don't, you know, bust into the place the way that you did. That's wrong. But at the end of the day,
I didn't see the media chastise the left for doing the exact same thing 4 years ago. I didn't.
Why didn't you bring up the fact that, you know, they're not hurting the police officers? They're not attacking
Absolutely.
them. They're not hitting them with anything. No frozen water bottles. They're not throwing any gas bombs at them. They're not lighting things on fire, burning down buildings, looting. They're not looting. Did they go into Washington and loot the way they did? No. But they're still, and like I said, I listened on Fox for a little bit, and they're chastising them for them showing up and protesting. But it was a peaceful protest. Yeah, there were a few that decided, but who are they? Who are those few? You know what I mean? And that's really what it boils down to. But again, my question is still this. Does nobody on the Democratic side, the Republican side, I'll cover them both, do they not have the backbone to say, well, let's say they want to have abortion. Oh, they want to cram the courts now, right? That's what they're talking about.
Yes.
Right? So, I mean, and what else? They want to let illegals in. They want to get rid of or at least, bring down the Social Security, you know, that you get. You know, he's been on that forever. For 47 years, he's been all over, you know, the Social Security and hurting it. So when? Because you people are so wealthy and well off, and you could supply your children and then let them supply theirs with finance, that you're not worried about the American people, we, the people, because that's what I see. Why isn't it?
That's where my problem lies.
He's out of her mind.
Yeah.
Right? Joe Biden, he's out of his mind. He wants to do what? He wants to take down the wall. He wants to let illegals in. He wants to give them money. I mean, what? You mean to tell me that, 50 senators, there ain't one of them that has the balls to stand up to their own party?
My problem is this too. I'm going to scale it back because I see what you're saying. My problem lies within the people themselves. Sometimes we have to take matters in our own hands. But wouldn't it be smart to have an end game approach? What's the end game in all of this? What's the objective? It's fine to protest. It's fine to express your opinion. What's the end game? Do you really think? Everyone seems to think that they're in a fantasy land. You're not going to raid the White House. You're not going to change anything as an individual. And you're probably not going to change anything as a collective group either. Because if right now, I'm sorry, but this is the truth. If right now you're on the wrong side of the fence, the media will make sure that everything you stand for will be perceived in a very murky, muddled kind of a manner. Nobody will actually accentuate the fact that you have beliefs that might be valid if you stand on the wrong side of the fence. So morale, as it pertains to one party over the other, morale is a lot lower because the media has already made up their mind, and we know exactly why that's the case. So I think people should ask themselves, why am I doing this? What can it accomplish? It's great. Like you said, you want to shake a lot of those people's hands who went out to Washington. Yeah, I agree with you. But it also is important to have intent. Intent has to be the end game. What's your goal? Have a goal in mind. Because you're playing into the hands of the media if you're going there without a goal, Paul. If anything, you're letting your opinions now